Welcome back into the program, guys. One of the things I most enjoyed about last night is we're not debating today about Ramon Poits as we were about Jaco Piper last weekend. Yes, you can argue whether the yellow card were justified to both players. Probably McCaw, yes, and whether we're seeing too many yellow cards. But we got a game of rugby last night. We got a sensational game of rugby. We sit back, even after chatting with Bryce Lawrence on the program yesterday, and you wonder, you're a young man, you've got options in life, you may like rugby, but why the hell would you get into refereeing? Well, Angus Mabey has made that decision. Angus Mabey you may have heard of. You would certainly have heard his voice. He's on Radio Sport, the breakfast program. The crowd goes wild with Mulligan and Rigger. He used to be my producer for many years at Radio Sport as well, but Angus is kind of treating this as the interim as he tries to achieve his aspirational goal, which is become a professional referee in rugby. So all of it, how do they get somebody like Angus ready for the big time? How much work does he do behind the scenes? And is he prepared for the criticism that is going to come his way? Because Angus, for the first time, refereed a match on Thursday night, North Harbour versus Southland, his first ITM Cup match. He joins me in studio as we look at the future of referees. What is the talent coming through? Angus Mabey, nice to see you.
Afternoon, Tony. This brings back a few memories.
And it's serious because, I mean, you've had media training during the week. There's certain things I can ask you, certain things I can't ask you. The fundamental thing, the reason why I wanted to get you in, though, and I've said this to you for a long time, when you and I were working together, is the reasons why you see this as a career choice.
It's a good question, and it's one that gets asked of a lot of me, and I'm still not sure if I have the best answer for it, but the way I look at it is it's a way to keep me involved in rugby. I was never a great rugby player. I used to enjoy playing rugby. It got to the stage, though, when I was still at high school that I was getting a bit sick and tired of it. And I was approached by a friend of mine's father who was a referee, and he said, "Oh, why don't you give refereeing a crack?" So I thought, why not? It's a great way to be able to have been stayed involved in the game. And I never, when I first started out refereeing, thought of it as a career path. And as the years have gone on, I think this is my 7th season now as a referee, I got given more and more opportunity. And within the last couple of years, there's been a bit of interest from national level. And with that came a realisation that I probably need to take it a little bit more seriously. And so with it over the last couple of years, I have.
So do you see this, and how long do you give yourself to make it as a referee? I mean, what are you now, age-wise?
I'm 25, just turned 25.
Okay, so at what point do you sit back and say, yes, I am good enough, or no, I'm not?
I don't know, because that's not always necessarily up to me. I can do my best to put the best performance possible out on the field, and it's up to selectors and others to decide whether or not I'm good enough. I can try and make myself good enough by upskilling myself around the game and gaining experience, but at the end of the day, I can only do so much and control what I can control.
Without giving away incomes, because that's your own private matters here, but could you make enough of a living, for example, to be an ITM Cup referee?
You couldn't do ITM Cup full-time if you weren't a professional referee.
So what about getting to the professional level? That's obviously, guys, and I've been told it's somewhere around $150,000. Again, I'm not going to ask you to reveal what it is, but it is a life choice. There certainly is a career there.
Absolutely there is. You know, there's a real career there, and it gives you great opportunities. I mean, already, and this being with me being nowhere near the professional level, I've had opportunity to travel. You know, earlier this year I went to Japan and refereed at the Sanex High School World Champs. I'm going to Fiji later on this year. I've been to Dubai, Australia. There's so many opportunities, even as a referee, not at the professional level.
One of the things that's interesting about you is that having this role with Radio Sport and the Brekkie program is that you're in a difficult situation because you've got your media hat, now you've got your referee's hat. So you do your first ITM Cup, North Harbour versus Southland. How do you marry those two up? Because I know even the text you sent me last weekend, Angus Mabey, saying stop picking on the referees, but it's bloody hard not to with rugby at the moment.
Look, it is a challenging environment, and yes, this job can make it a little bit awkward at times because as I guess the games that I do become more high profile, then people do know how to target me if they wanted to or get hold of me. I mean, it's not hard to send a text to the Radio Sport Breakfast Show, is it? Just like it's not hard to send a text.
Have you received any of those texts?
Generally speaking, it's been pretty positive. There is the odd text that comes through.
You must be prepared, and this is one of the things I'm interested in, and part of the reason I wanted to get you in this afternoon is that What mechanisms have the referees' bosses put in place to get you guys prepared for the fact that you're going to be criticised?
To be fair, it's probably a personal thing. Like for me, for example, at the start of the year, I sat down with a former first-class referee in this country and spoke to him about how he dealt with some of the criticisms, because he copped a fair bit of criticism over his time. And he said it's simply a case of either accepting it and dealing with it in your own way, or get out of the game. And the way I deal with it is I don't really respond to it. I don't read, I don't look for it, I don't search for it, because I only respect the opinions of those people who are in the game and who I respect.
But you were saying that to me now after doing one game of ITM Cup. Let's say, and I'm not wanting worst case scenario for you, Angus, maybe, but let's say you have a shocker and you cost a team, an ITM Cup team, a game. Then all of a sudden, there's a coach who's unhappy with you. Coach raises issues about the referee. That's when it gets difficult for you.
Absolutely.
And that's when it is going to get difficult for you.
And not just me, but every other referee that is refereeing in the ITM Cup or any level of rugby. And that's when you go to those people that you have around you, your mentors, your coaches, the people at the NZRU, i.e. the Rod Hills, the Bryce Lawrences, who have been through that and who have the experience, and you talk to them. And you go and talk to the coaches. You know, referees don't shut up shop. I'll speak to the two coaches to talk about the game after I've reviewed it.
Do you feel that you're utterly defensive now of referees because you see it from the other side?
On the most part, yes, because I know how hard it is. It is a challenging job to do, and we're out there doing a job. And referees don't go out there and deliberately make mistakes, just like players don't go out there and deliberately make mistakes. You know, there is, when going into a game and then when refereeing a game, there is a process to it. There is thought behind it. It's not just a case of going out there and blowing the whistle willy-nilly.
Well, when you watch test matches now, Angus, and you watch games of rugby, do you feel like you can see whether a referee is making a mistake, whether a player is making a mistake, whether a player is breaking the rules? I mean, this is the problem that a lot of punters and your mates will have as well, Angus. With test matches like the one we got in Sydney, the frustration of not actually understanding rugby anymore.
Yeah, you can see the frustration. You know, there's sometimes when I'll be watching games and a referee will make a decision and I'll wonder why. And if I'm not 100% sure, I'll go and find out why. I'll go and talk to people who are more experienced than me. Like, I look at a test match referee, and my view of them is that they are a far better referee than I am because of the level of rugby that they're doing. So there has to be a reason why they made that decision. They may have got it wrong, and if they can explain why they got it wrong in their review, then they can learn from that. And that's what I try and do when I watch test rugby. I find it incredibly difficult to watch a game of rugby as a fan now. To sit there and enjoy it, because I'm trying to see what the referee's doing, seeing where he stands, even his position, how he's interpreting things, what he's looking for.
Angus Mabey with us, one of our young referees coming through the system. I mean, I speak of young, and I was talking to the NZRU people during the week, Gus, and they were saying, yeah, there are some concerns that the numbers coming through aren't as good as what they could be. It's not seen as a sexy career choice for a lot of people. What are you finding?
Yeah, there's a few young boys coming through. I think I'm the youngest in the national squad at the moment, but I don't think age necessarily matters. You know, there's only a limited number of referees in this country, and it's all very well saying that the current 15, they're not good enough, they're too young, they're too inexperienced. Well, there's not exactly a plethora of them coming through.
Well, that's my main reason for asking that question, because I remember talking to Bryce Lawrence, who we had on the program yesterday, post the quarterfinal performance, and he copped an absolute pummeling. In fact, some of it was downright offensive, but he made the point, he said, look, when you see the criticism these guys are copying, a young person coming through would say, why would I put myself in that situation? Which again goes back to my original point. Why the hell are you putting yourself in that situation?
Well, think of the opportunities that it can give you. I'll start at a community level. You know, what better seat in the house is there than standing in the middle of the field, seeing the game unfold in front of you, being right there when a player scores a try? How good is that?
Yeah.
You know, having a greater understanding of the game itself rather than just standing on the sideline and wondering what's happening. You get to travel. You know, just in New Zealand alone, I've gone to places that I would never have probably gone. You meet some outstanding people. You know, and sometimes I think coming from a bigger city, we forget how much people care about rugby in this country and how passionate they are about their code. Even in the provinces, you know, you go to a Pink Bats Heartland Championship game and the passion on the sidelines. Yeah, there can be the odd comment made, but generally you don't hear it. But in the changing room afterwards, everyone comes together, shakes your hand, have a beer, have a good chat, and just talk rugby. Talk about, this great game that this country so much loves.
When you and I were chatting during the week about this interview, I asked you this question about what is the most difficult part of the game for you. You answered scrums.
Mm-hmm.
How difficult is it when you're out there, and you have probably never packed down in a scrum in your life, have you?
Not in the front row, no.
No. So how do you then identify who's doing what at scrum time?
I'll be honest, it's difficult. I mean, I look back at my game on Thursday night, and that was the biggest thing I struggled with was at scrum time and trying to work out who is doing what and why. Sometimes it can come down to just to poor technique from teams. But for me, the challenge is to try and gain a greater understanding from those who are in the know, the Mike Crons, the Mike Caseys, those scrum coaches that are around the place, talking to referees who have been at that level for a long time, and watching scrums, watching a hell of a lot of scrums. A good example.
Oh, you poor bugger. You poor bugger.
I know. Former New Zealand referee Jonathan White, he was having issues around scrums, and he was an outstanding referee. And he watched every scrum in Super Rugby a couple of years ago. He recorded every game and fast-forwarded through and watched every single scrum.
That's the thing with technology now, and the players are getting a lot more information. Do you get sent all of that? So if you want to go through multiple lineouts, multiple scrums, can you?
Absolutely. We've got a system by where our games are put up online, and we can clip them ourselves. Some parts of them are clipped already, and we can go through everything. We can do online conversations with our coaches. We can watch videos from different parts of the country at the same time. There is all that infrastructure in place, and the technology is certainly there for us as referees to try and improve and understand the game of rugby better.
So to wrap, this is your aspirational goal, isn't it? To become an international rugby referee. Is that what you build your platform? That's what you would love to do?
I'd love to. I mean, it's one step at a time. The odds of getting there realistically are against me.
Why?
Because it is so hard to get to the top level. It takes a lot of hard work and dedication, and certainly, I'm willing to give it a decent nudge, but it's also opportunity, a little bit of luck, and just one step at a time. I don't look too far ahead, to be fair, Tony. For me, this year, ITM Cup was the goal. Now I've got to ITM Cup. The next step is to prove myself at ITM Cup and just make it a stepping stone to whatever it might be.
This is a question for you, and I can answer this one as well, which I love. Are you a better rugby referee or a better radio producer?
They're very different. Very, very different.
I can go with rugby referee.
If you were on the field, Tony, it would be a nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be that yappy halfback. That'd be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I'd be at that all the time. It is pretty funny, though, the way that you are very, I say the word again, defensive, and it is a tough gig out there. But, I mean, you're doing it and you're trying it, and as you say, it may not work.
It might not, and it's like anything in life. You don't know unless you try.
We wish you well. When's your next big ITM Cup match?
The draw isn't out yet, so I'm not 100% sure. I'm in Ruatoria in a couple of weeks' time, East Coast, Thames Valley for the Pink Bats Heartland Championship.
And as I said, as Angus's newfound manager, a couple of hundy, that will generally do it. A couple of hundy if you're a provincial coach listening this afternoon. Contra will also work, some travel gigs as well, all of it. Angus...
No one could afford me, Tony. Not even you.
Dear, oh dear. Good to see you, bud.
Likewise.